What's a common fact that's actually incorrect? The beverage used by Jim Jones to kill all of those people was not Kool-Aid. It was another brand called Flavor Aid. Some bitch didn't even use the real deal. That if you encounter an alligator, you should run in zigzag. Do one zag and just run straight. Why not a zig? Cold doesn't get you sick. Could just weakens your immune system, which makes it easier for you to get sick. Gladiator games in ancient Rome were not two men go in, one comes out. The figure I've seen in most studies is a chance of 1/9 for a gladiator to die during a moonuse that he took part in. That's huge, of course, but still means that, in most cases, it wasn't a fight to the death. If people knew that the vast majority of gladiators were highly trained entertainers, they'd know that of course they weren't killed often. Most were slaves, yes, but their masters spent a large amount of time and money to shape them for the games. It wasn't even uncommon for a slave gladiator to buy their freedom and remain a gladiator. Fights to the death were generally accidents or were public executions for criminals, albeit with a couple of extra steps for the entertainment of the crowd. These fights were in the minority. It's difficult to translate into modern times because the ancients often had a different understanding of slavery. While conditions were appalling at places like silver mines, the law was quite strict in mistreating slaves, many of whom had positions working in the household as tutors and such. Of course, always exceptions to be found. But being a slave in the Roman Empire isn't comparable to being one in a Caribbean sugar farm. Exactly, you wouldn't, for instance, want to mistreat the expensive Greek slave you bought to teach your children and take care of them. And there were indeed laws to protect such slaves. The schlubs you had working on the vineyard, on the other hand, well, they aren't so valuable and the law is a long way off. There is only one type of chemo. For those of you unfortunate enough to know the truth firsthand, I'm sorry, but while talking about the different types of chemo I've been on, dozens of people have asked, wait, isn't there only one kind of chemo? No. My innocent child, no. Violets are blue. Violets are violet. Actually, back when it was written, the color palette wasn't as clear as now. So most of violet and purple stuff was just another shade of blue for them. It's because it was really hard for them to tell colors apart. On account of it was all still black and white. Color photographs weren't around until much later. They are indeed purple, but one thing you've missed. The concept of purple didn't always exist. Some cultures lack names for a color. You see, hence good old Homer and his wine dark sea. Quote, a usage so quaint, a phrasing so old, for verses of romance, is sheer FG gold. So roses are red. Violets once were called blue. I'm hugely pedantic, but what else is new? It's okay to drink milk when you've got a cold. It won't give you more mucus. Will you tell my mom this? You made me Google and you're correct. I've always believed that one. Also, Epsom salts do absolutely zero. Nothing at all. It's a completely psychosomatic thing. There's some interesting stuff written about psychosomatic effects. As in, they shouldn't be discounted because if they cause the person to trick her body into alleviating symptoms, it technically works. That it takes the Earth 24 hours to rotate one time. It actually takes the Earth about 23 hours and 56 minutes to rotate once, in reference to the rest of the universe. However, the Earth is traveling around the Sun, so it takes the Earth another 4 minutes or so to return to the same position it was relative to the Sun. You don't defibrillate someone to revive them from death. Defibrillators are used to fix irregular heartbeats, not restart a stopped heart. B. He's flatlining. Nurse, get the defib. Clear. BOMF. Clear. BOMF. Come on. Don't you die on me. Clear. Bomf. B. Bip. 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 Venture Bros parodied this well. I'm gonna butcher it, but one character yelled clear. And the other says, a what? And the first replies, it means stand clear, and the other says, oh. I thought maybe there was like a clear button I was supposed to press or something. I guess depends on how you define a stopped heart though. Strictly asystole, P, or just cardiac arrest in general. Defibrillators are still part of the management for pulseless VT or VF. Dogs do not see in black and white. They can see some color. It just looks really washed out. Edit. Link. Here's a link that helps explain it and show how dogs see. Edit. Sorry. It starts a little bit into the video. You'll have to rewind it to the beginning. It's not the volts that kill you, it's the amps. Amps don't even exist without volts. But volts do exist without amps. It does take a certain amount of current, amps, to kill you. But it also requires a certain amount of voltage to push that current through you. If the voltage is not high enough, then it cannot push that current through your body. The higher the voltage, the more easily it can push current through you, and do some killing along the way. Which one does the killing? They both do. Similar to getting hit by a bus. You need the bus. And you need the bus to have velocity in order for it to run you down. Napoleon wasn't short. He was actually 5'7", which was considered average to tall height for the time. Apparently the only way we can surmise that the urban legend started that he was short was because of the difference between English and French imperial units, which led to his height seeming small by British figures. It was also propaganda. He also surrounded himself with an imperial guard, all of whom were 6 feet plus. The belief that Jingle Bells was written to be a Christmas song. Wrong. It was intended to be a Thanksgiving song. I thought it was about Batman's lack of personal hygiene. See also. Robin's Cloaca. I don't want to see that. A lot of things the US government passed off as facts about psychedelics in the 60s and 70s have been proven false. For example, LSD doesn't rot your brain or cause psychosis. It can exaggerate pre-existing psychosis. Though. That most Redditors are weird virgins. I know it's a kind of joke, but still I would say there are way more regular people than there are strange people on Reddit. Paul Revere was not a hero of any kind. First, he never would have said, "The British are coming," because they were all British. Not to mention, it would have alerted the British forces where he was with all his yelling. All Paul Revere did was ride 12 miles and then get caught. Also, he wasn't the only rider. The accurate event, and one that is way more compelling and interesting, was Sybil Luddington. She was only 16 years old. Prior to her famous ride, Sybil saved her father from capture. A loyalist named Ichabod Prosser and 50 other loyalists tried to capture her father. But Sybil lit candles around the house and organized her siblings to march in front of the windows in military fashion, creating the impression of many troops guarding the house. The Loyalists fled. 9. On April 26, 1777, Sybil Luddington rode her horse, Star, 40 miles through the night in Putnam County, New York, to alert 400 revolutionaries of the upcoming arrival of British soldiers. Young Sybil carried a stick on horseback to bang on the doors she passed, cutting down on her travel time. Her heroism brought George Washington to her house to personally thank her. So why does Paul Revere get the credit? He had a publicist. I believe the generally accepted reason that Paul Revere got famous was because his last name rhymed with here. I remember writing a report on Sybil in the 5th grade. You just brought back so many memories for me, LMAO. The R in R15 stands for assault rifle. It actually stands for Armalite, the company that engineered the rifle. Edit. Changed the grammar to better show the fact and the fact. Sorry, I've always struggled with grammar. Fact then. Putting butter on a burn will heal it. Fact now. Don't try it. Cool water and cool water alone. Fats trap it and ice can just make things worse. This is a good one. Body temp water. Cold water could give you nerve damage. Never put cold on a burn. And it hurts like you wouldn't believe. When I was a kid I burned my hands. Really bad. Second and third degree burns completely over both. My dad and his GF at the time drugged me to the sink and they dumped a bunch of ice in the water and held my hands in it. I was in so much pain before they did that, but when my hands went in I didn't know that kind of pain existed. It's cranked that 11 up to a solid 20. It still freaks me out thinking about it. Chameleons do not change color based on the background. It's based on health, temperature, and mood. Humans eat 8 spiders a year in their sleep. Spiders generally like cool, dry places. The inside of your mouth is not an appealing place for them. Spiders Georg, who lives in cave and eats over 10,000 spiders each day, is an outlier and should not have been counted. Every time I see this, I laugh. It doesn't stop being funny. There's a pretty interesting backstory to this one. So how did this claim arise? In a 1993 PC Professional article, columnist Lisa Holst wrote about the ubiquitous lists of facts that were circulating via email and how readily they were accepted as truthful by gullible recipients. To demonstrate her point, Holst offered her own made-up list of equally ridiculous facts, among which was the statistic cited above about the average person swallowing 8 spiders per year, which she took from a collection of common misbeliefs printed in a 1954 book on insect folklore. In a delicious irony, Holst's propagation of this false fact has spurred it into becoming one of the most widely circulated bits of misinformation to be found on the Internet. Link. You can put birds back in their nests. The mother will not reject them. I learned this when I was little. Being the idiot I was, I thought hitting a tree with my T-ball bat was a good idea. I ended up accidentally knocking 3 baby birds out of a nest. The mother was not home, so I put them back in the nest. I checked up on them when the mother would go out. A few times they fell out again, so I would put them back in. Eventually time passed and they grew into strong little birds. They all ended up flying away eventually. Was a nice ending to a stupid decision by my 8-year-old self. I think I'll call it a day after reading this. Same with baby cats. Mama cats do not care about your smell. They care about having their little ones back. Rick never says play it again. Sam in Casablanca. Daddy long legs are the most venomous spiders in the world. But they can't bite you. I hate this one so much. Daddy long legs spiders are not venomous to humans. At all. No. They can't bite you. But even if they could, you wouldn't die or come anywhere close. Edit. Apparently they aren't even spiders either. WTF. Another edit. Guys. Read the comments before you post that they can bite. Other people explain that for you down there. Daddy long legs aren't spiders. Spiders have 2 body segments. That depends on where you're from. In Australia, the animals we call daddy long legs really are a species of spider. I live in California, and the name daddy long legs has always referred to a cellar spider. I was almost 30 before I saw a harvestman for the first time. Which is what all those "you're using this wrong" listicles define daddy long legs as. Shaving will make it come back thicker. If so, then we'd have huge painful black, orange, blonde, brunette or orange branch-sized hairs growing from our body by now. If you shave. Lol. The PS is a muscle. False. The PS consists of a unique tissue that inflates with blood and restricts the blood from leaving, which inflates the tissue and creates an erection. The same type of tissue exists in your nose, which is why you get a stuffy nose from sneezing, crying, allergies, all of which increase blood flow to the face. Edit. Wanted to add for cringe factor. but you can rupture or break your PS as well. So, what you're telling me is that clogged sinuses are nose boners? Indeed. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos.